John Hook's Newsmaker Saturday starts now.
Thanks for joining us on Newsmaker Saturday. Recently, California once again flirted with a power grid failure due to increased demand because of a wicked heat wave. California's no stranger to rolling blackouts and brownouts. Each summer, their power grid seems to teeter on the brink. But California's not alone. You'll remember in February of 2021, Texas shut power off to millions of people during the grips of an extreme cold snap. So how is it that here in Arizona, in one of the most inhospitable climates in the world, we have somehow managed to avoid these power calamities? Ted Geisler is the new president for Arizona Public Service Company, and he joins us on Newsmaker Saturday. First of all, congratulations on the new job. You've been on since, I think, May 16th.
That's right, John. Thanks. Great to be here, and privileged to be able to serve our customers and our team here at APS in this new role.
You're a local guy. You grew up here. Let me ask you, Ted, right out of the gate, how is it that we seem to somehow be better situated than California and Texas?
Well, I tell you, we work incredibly hard all year long to make sure that we are operating a secure and resilient grid for our customers that's both reliable and affordable. And that doesn't happen by accident. It starts years prior in the planning process. We actually put out a plan every few years that goes 15 years out into the future, identifying what we expect Arizona's growth to be and how we're going to meet that growth with resources. But there's several differences between a state like ours and our planning process and other states, California being one of them. For example, while we embrace migrating towards a cleaner future, we're embracing clean the responsible way by recognizing reliability and affordability as a principle. So an example of that is we embrace Palo Verde Nuclear Generating Station as a key reliable resource that's both carbon-free and necessary to be able to ensure reliability for our region, as opposed to California, where they've actually been on a trajectory of retiring nuclear plants. Now, there's a conversation right now about keeping one of those scheduled retirements open a little bit longer, but that's a big difference between Arizona and California. Another difference, for example, is California retired all their coal generation by 2016. And in Arizona, we believe in an ultimate retirement at end of life, but it's a gradual transition to ensure that we don't put reliability or affordability at risk for our customers. And as we all know, Arizona is a rapidly growing state. That's a lot to be proud of, but it's important that we continue to plan and invest in the grid to ensure that we're keeping up with that growth while maintaining top reliability and affordability for our customers. And so looking at a balance of generation resources, planning ahead, and making a gradual and responsible transition to clean while ensuring reliability and affordability along the way is a key differentiator for APS and Arizona compared to other states around.
Do you think, Ted, that California has pushed too fast, too soon for renewable energy, putting their grid at risk?
Well, it's hard to say, and it's difficult for me to speak on their behalf, but I will tell you that their peak demand this past year was 14% higher than what they forecasted. That's a significant increase. Now, it's very difficult for any of us as utilities to be able to forecast exactly what customers are going to use in terms of energy. We know that we have to try to put a lot of emphasis into that planning criteria, and then we have to ensure that we have a prudent reserve margin on top of that to be able to plan for unknowns, such as extreme temperature or customer growth beyond what we're expecting. And part of our job is to ensure that we're planning for those extreme conditions. So, for example, a couple of years back, we increased the temperature threshold that we plan for here in this state to accommodate the growth that we're seeing and the heat island effect that we may experience here in Phoenix. Targeting that higher temperature ensures that on the hottest days, we're there to serve. And that any day shorter than that, well, then we should have plenty of capacity to ensure reliability for our customers. That planning criteria that we adopt doesn't happen by accident. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of collaboration with the Arizona Corporation Commission and our stakeholders. And I'm not sure that other states have that same.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right about that. Let's talk about our array of power here in Arizona. And a couple of numbers struck me. Tell me if these numbers match up with what you've got. Generally, our energy mix is this: 44% generated by natural gas, 29% nuclear power, 13% coal, 5% hydroelectric power, 6% solar, 1.5% wind. Is that about right?
Yeah, as a state, directionally, that likely is correct. Certainly our portfolio of resources within that mix that you just cited may be slightly different. But I think the key that you're mentioning, which is absolutely correct, is it's a blend of technologies, nuclear being one of them, very important, carbon-free, reliable. Our belief in continuing to grow and invest in renewables certainly exists, but importantly, we're focused on reliable renewables that's utility scale, that is affordable. We also recognize that coal has an important role in the resource mix today. Now that'll be retiring by the end of the decade, but that's a gradual transition. We can't retire too abruptly, otherwise we put reliability at risk. And then finally, the criticality that you mentioned of natural gas. Natural gas is an absolute essential resource to help facilitate this transition from coal to more clean resources. It's a resource that is important to maintain reliability and to keep up with growth. We believe it's essential to ensure that Arizonans continue to have comfort and convenience during extreme heat of the summer.
Ted, what's the carbon footprint of natural gas? Our natural gas produced in this country is very, very clean, but what is it?
Yeah, it's difficult to specify what a particular percentage is. Certainly, it's significantly less than other resources such as coal. And there's always technologies to make it more efficient, John. In fact, we're looking now at how to take some of our older natural gas generators and upgrade them over time to improve the efficiency, reduce the emissions that they contribute, and improve affordability and reliability at the same time. So there's constantly innovations with natural gas. When we look far out into the future, we're looking at opportunities to consider, is there a way to utilize that natural gas generation, but in a carbon-free manner? So you get the same benefits of reliability, but you continue to reduce carbon over time. And again, that's got to be a steady and responsible transition. So for example, a decade from now, can you use hydrogen as a fuel source in those same natural gas units, whether it be blended with natural gas or in whole, to reduce the carbon output, but still get the benefit of the reliability from that infrastructure?
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Palo Verde because to me, it's the linchpin for us in Arizona. We're in a place that very little seismic activity. It would seem to be one of the safer places in the nation, and Palo Verde is the largest plant in the country in terms of output. Is there any talk on the horizon of looking at a fourth-gen nuclear power plant, build a second one to give us absolute reliability? Because it takes a while to build these, but is anybody looking at that?
Well, certainly you're exactly right. Palo Verde is a critical resource in the broader Southwest region. It actually provides 70% of the carbon-free, reliable energy in the Southwest that we all enjoy today. And we do believe nuclear has a role long into the future. So not only do we expect Palo Verde to be here for decades to come, but we believe nuclear as a technology has a role to grow in the future. Now, the question is, what does that nuclear technology look like? There's a lot of early production research and design going on right now for small modular reactors or small nuclear.
Yes.
We believe that it's going to be important to pay attention to those projects, see how they develop. And if they become commercially viable in the future, we think Arizona could be a great place to host nuclear growth with some of that new technology.
That's fourth generation then. That's fourth generation we're talking about.
That's correct, John. And that's likely not something you'll see in the immediate future. But over the next 5 to 10 years, as that technology matures, and you see some of that fourth generation nuclear develop within the country and expand beyond R&D mode to commercialization, I think APS and Arizona are primed to consider new nuclear in the form of fourth generation or small modular reactors in our service territory at some point down the road.
Let's talk about solar. I know you guys are pretty bullish on it, trying to do it, but I look at that solar array in Buckeye. Man, it's massive. It's 118 acres right off of State Route 85. People have driven by it, they've seen it. But the amount of land needed to produce solar right now at scale, it's a lot of land use. Same for wind. People don't talk about this, but you've got to disturb a lot of land to do this.
Well, it certainly does take a lot of land. I guess it really just depends on what land is being used. The majority of our solar plants are actually located on land that is either currently not used or is not likely to be developed or habitable any time in the planning horizon. You think about a lot of the rural space, for example, between Phoenix and Yuma, we've been fortunate to be able to generate tax revenue and income for a lot of the landowners or agencies that have property in that space that likely otherwise wouldn't see development over the next 30 years. And instead, it's a prime spot for solar. So we don't believe solar is the answer, but we believe it is a key resource to introduce and grow within our broader resource mix. It is carbon-free, but importantly, John, it's affordable. Every year, we put forward an RFP, a request for proposals for new technology to be bid in for us to evaluate how do we continue to grow resources to keep up with Arizona's growth. It's a competitive, transparent process. And continuously, we're seeing solar resources and solar plus utility scale battery storage as being affordable. So again, it's not the answer, but when coupled with nuclear, our existing natural gas fleet, it's a great way for us to plan for ultimate coal retirement.
Ted, could solar survive without the heavy federal and state subsidies that support it?
Well, certainly there's a lot of federal support for solar. The one interesting key is you look at an environment like right now where you have commodity prices like natural gas, a bit volatile. We see that at the gas pump. The wholesale price of natural gas is that way too. Solar does help insulate our customers from volatility of fuel price. So while it may be propped up with subsidy, there is a long-term benefit of having certainty on not being dependent on that volatility of fuel price. All in all, no two ways about it. There is subsidized assistance that makes that more affordable. And as long as that exists, we want to make sure that we're putting it to work for Arizona and Arizona customers.
Clear up something for me. Your guy out there who used to run, Randy Eddington, who used to run Palo Verde, he once told me, he said, when Palo Verde, the nuclear plant, is generating, you can't attenuate it. It's going at 100% when it's going. You can't back it off. And he said there's a lot of days where solar is coming on the grid on people's rooftop, deals, and it's pouring onto the grid, and he's like, we don't even need it, and we're selling it for a loss to California. Is that true?
Well, certainly it's true that rooftop solar in particular, that isn't necessarily operated or dispatched by the utility, generates during the middle of the day, and sometimes during times of the year when we just don't need excess power. The advantage of utility scale or grid scale solar that utilities operate is that we can actually control the output. And if the grid doesn't need it at the time it's generating, we can store it in utility scale storage devices and then reuse that same solar power at night after the sun sets.
So we've got the batteries, we've got the battery capacity to do that?
We're developing that battery capacity now. And as we continue to grow the solar portfolio, the battery capacity is going to have to grow with it so that we can help manage when that output is being generated by solar and when it's used to coincide with when our customers are actually needing electricity. But I think the other point that you mentioned about Palo Verde operating around the clock and there being excess solar is true. But what we actually see is more often than not, California or other states around us having excess solar, and then APS being in an opportunity to where if that solar is being offered on the wholesale market for free, or even we can be paid to take that solar, we will do that on behalf of our customers. We'll pass that energy on to our customers, and we pass on the bill credit to our customers. So our customers are actually getting a reduction in their electric bill by us taking that free energy or getting paid to take that energy when states around us have overproduction.
One more thing before we let you go. We've obviously, I think we're at 5% we rely on for hydroelectric power. That's water coming down through spinning the turbines, particularly the Colorado. What are we looking at if we hit a point where the drought cuts off our ability to produce that segment of our power?
Well, for APS, we actually don't depend on any hydropower today, but there are other utilities within the region that do. And I think it's an important symbol of how complex keeping up with the growth of Arizona has become from an energy standpoint, because we have to contend with reduction in water supplies and therefore a reduction in hydroelectric power, certainly keeping up with the rapid rate of growth. We also have to recognize that 20 years ago, there was actually ample generation within our region that utilities could just simply contract or buy. All that generation is committed. So for every 150 homes that relocates to Arizona, we have to build another megawatt of generation somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
And as water resources reduce, that means you're reducing some of the hydro generation in the state, which also creates more demand for new generation resources elsewhere.
Yeah, it's a tricky deal, but we have really somehow dodged a crisis, even when we're at nearing 120 degrees. It's amazing. It really is.
Well, John, I appreciate that. I'd like to say that it doesn't really happen by accident, though. One of the things I tell folks is that when a customer receives their electric bill every month, there's a variety of line items that make up that bill, but nothing on that bill talks about planning. And yet I would argue that's one of the most critical aspects of our job. And I'm really proud of our team and our state for planning to ensure we could keep up with Arizona's growth in a reliable and affordable manner, and we'll continue to do that.
Ted Geisler, president of APS, one of your first interviews you've done on television. So thank you. We're honored to have you. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, John.
Good
Likewise.
to see you. We're back in a moment on Newsmaker Saturday. Back on Newsmaker Saturday, it is impossible for most of us to imagine losing the ability to stand or walk. But that's the reality for 5.5 million Americans, many of them veterans. And one of them, Richie Neider of Phoenix, took his first steps in 10 years. He was left paralyzed when an I.E.D exploded while he served in Operation Iraqi Freedom. The blast severely damaged his spinal cord. We were there as Richie strapped into a device known as an exoskeleton, which allowed him to stand up and walk again. This robotic device is a modern miracle, and Richie Neider certainly thinks so. He joins us now on Newsmaker Saturday. Richie, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, John.
When you watch that video, what do you think?
It's kind of surreal to see myself walking with the machine doing the work for me, but it feels like walking. And it's just an amazing experience that there really aren't many words to describe it.
Did you ever think that you would stand up and walk again?
No, not at any time. It was one of those where I truly believed that, I'm in the wheelchair permanently, and, that was going to be the rest of my life.
You went through 2.5 months of training using the exoskeleton, and now you get to take it home. It is yours, right? And you're the first veteran, I think, here in Arizona to have this take-home device.
That is correct. The Rewalk is mine to bring home. I do a 45-day period where, we kind of track how I'm using it and type of conditions. And then at the end of the 45 days, the Phoenix VA then puts the purchase order in with Rewalk.
I want to play, I know Dan Bonarati, your physical therapist at Touchstone Rehab. You worked with him on this, but I want to play tape 1. He kind of talks about this has been in the pipeline, and now it's becoming much more accessible to people. Take a listen.
This technology has been available to the public for approximately about 8 or 9 years, been in development for about 20. Rewalk actually started in Israel and is now FDA approved in the US, and it's really the only device that can go home with people. A lot of the other devices are centered around rehabilitation and using in rehabilitation clinics.
So Richie, did you use at one time kind of the braces, the leg braces, which are cumbersome and they just wear you down? You can't do it for very long. Did you ever go that way?
No, because the type of injury I sustained, I have no control over my legs.
So you use, this gets technical, but help me with this. You know how to walk. You've been doing it all your life until the injury in Iraq. So when your mind initiates the movement of trying to walk, your body starts to throw one side forward. The exoskeleton, as I understand it, reacts to that movement and then extends that mechanical leg. Is that about the long and short of it?
Yeah, that's about the long and short of it. basically you shift your body a little bit, and it starts taking the steps, and then as you kind of lean your body back and forth, then it knows to keep on stepping.
So would you say that it's not exactly like walking again, because you have to kind of relearn the movement that triggers this particular device?
It's not really walking, because the machine itself is actually doing the walking. It allows my legs to get the exercise. There's a lot of other medical benefits to having your legs being moved, digestively, circulation, bone density, all those types of all those types of items. Like it also helps with the mental side of things. So it's not necessarily fully learning to walk again as much as it is it's doing the walking for you, but you get the sensation that you're walking.
How can you describe how liberating that is for you to get out of the chair and walk?
It's complete independence, freedom. I always make the jokes that I do, like being, I can be a stand-up guy again, not just role model, or I don't have to be the king of musical chairs, and of course my buddies are always like, oh, you're going to go back to doing stand-up comedy, it's
of course. Oh man,
always the jokes. So, but it gives something back, because a lot of times, and even people who are able-bodied, as we age, it always feels like something's being taken away. And for me,
tell me about it.
Well, you look young as me, so perfect. But as we all age, things go downhill a little bit. And for me, I got something back that I just never thought I would get back. And that's the ability to be eye to eye with my peers. Oh man. It was just really touched me to watch you this week doing this. I just thought, we've got to get you on. How much time do you find yourself in the exoskeleton? In a 24-hour day, I mean, you're sleeping 8 hours a day if you're lucky. How much time do you spend in it? So far, since I've brought it home, I would say I've done probably 4, possibly pushing on the 5-hour mark of. No
kidding.
Strapping into it and moving around the house, or going out front and walking down the street and seeing my neighbors' faces when they realize, wait, he's actually out here and he doesn't have a wheelchair with him.
Unbelievable. So what has been the biggest change in your life to be up and standing erect again?
The biggest change, I would have to say my attitude, just the ability to laugh more things off, and be able to have that relaxed state, and seeing the world from a different view again.
Did it feel familiar, or did it feel weird?
To be that high up in the air again, I'm like, this house looks completely different than what I expected it to look. Right.
It's like you're ready to slam dunk. Richie Neider, thank you so much. Thank you for your service to the country, first and foremost. And we're so happy for you. It is a new chapter for people with paralysis, no doubt.
It really is. Thank you for having me on and allowing me to share my story.
Richie Neider, best of luck. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break here on Newsmaker Saturday. Back in a moment. Well, we appreciate your time as always on Newsmaker Saturday. Thanks for being with us, and we will see you next week. Again, another edition of Newsmaker Saturday.